What's up, y'all? It's your boy Jew coming at you with another Atlanta Falcons video. As you know, it is Falcons Friday, so rise up. This video will be doing a breakdown of last night's game, which was our fourth preseason game against the Washington Redskins. I also will be breaking down who I believe will be making the 53-man roster, since usually the third game, which was actually our fourth game, is usually the dress rehearsal. I don't believe the starters will play any. If so, maybe a drive in our next preseason game, which will be actually our fifth preseason game. But I do want to talk about who I believe will be making this 53-man roster. Last night, I was on Facebook Live watching the game. I was streaming it online, and I also was talking to the fans that was in my chat on Facebook. Once I get enough subscribers, I will be doing lives on my YouTube page here at Jew Talk Sports. So like I said before, like, share, subscribe to the page. If you know any Falcons fans, definitely let them know about my page. And if they're just football fans, let them know about the page. But I will be breaking down, as far as last night's game real quick, I will break down what I liked about the game, what I didn't like about the game. So let's just hop right into it. Last night, we did play against the Washington Redskins, as I stated before. I believe the video I did before this, I told you what I would be looking for. As far as on the offensive line, we did struggle against the Jets, even though their defensive coordinator, Greg Williams, did do a lot of blitzing. And you don't really game plan for people to be blitzing in the preseason, so our offensive line looked really bad. They did look better last night. We got to see Matt Gano, at least I got to see him for the first time, at the right tackle position, because Tyson Brilo is injured, and we know that Caleb McGarry will be coming back from injury pretty soon. I like what I saw out of Matt Gano last night. I don't believe he will be the starter. I believe the starter will be Tyson Brilo, unless he's just too injured to come back. Eventually, I expect Caleb McGarry, which is the rookie we took in the first round, at the end of the first round, to be taking that spot eventually. But to start the year off, I believe Tyson Brilo, being that Caleb McGarry had the heart condition, he hasn't practiced. Or actually, he just returned to practice, but he hasn't played in any preseason games so far this year. But as far as Matt Gano, so I don't get too far ahead of myself, Matt Gano did look decent last night at right tackle. Matt Ryan wasn't sacked any, if I remember correctly. He did have to throw the ball away a couple times, but he was not sacked last night at all, which we know against the Jets he was sacked 3 times and hit or pressured 6 times. Matt Ryan did look good as usual. The offense looks pretty good. I also said I would be watching that running back position, because you know we have about 4 guys in the running back, 4 or 5 guys looking for that running back spot. We have Devontae Freeman, of course, Ito Smith, Brian Hill, Quadre Olesen. Last night, Ito Smith stood out. He stood out to me. He did his thing as always. I mean, it was no doubt in my mind that Ito Smith would actually make this team, just because he was on the team last year, and he was actually took like close to the leading role right behind Tevin Coleman. They basically split carries, and he was pretty good last year. Ito Smith, I like his change of pace to Devontae Freeman. He's definitely a nice back that can cut on the dime. I like the way that Ito Smith cuts. To me, he's not as explosive as Devontae Freeman is, as far as cutting, and he's not as fast as Devontae Freeman as far as hitting the holes. To me, Ito Smith is a lot more patient, or he's patient when it comes to hitting the hole, where Devontae Freeman just hits the hole hard pretty much every time. Devontae Freeman does have, to me, better vision than Ito Smith, but Ito Smith does have that wiggle where he can juke defenders and stuff like that, and he's usually like a one cut back. Once he cuts in the hole, it's hard to find him, because Ito Smith is a smaller back, kind of like Warwick Dunn, who we used to have years ago. He is kind of like a smaller back. But I did like the performance from Ito Smith. Brian Hill, he didn't get a lot of carries last night, surprisingly. They gave more carries to Quadre Olesen. I didn't really see much out of Brian Hill last night, so I couldn't really judge that. But Quadre Olesen did look good. He pretty much played the whole third and fourth quarter, and he looked really good. Quadre Olesen looked really good last night. He did run the ball a lot up the middle, so it looks like he's going to be kind of like our short yardage back and power back, and he is a solid running back. He did break a lot of tackles last night. He did run with force. He does hit the hole And he's hits the whole hard. He did have one fumble last night, which we all understand he's a rookie, so he's going to make some mistakes. He's still learning, ball security and things of that nature, and that you got to protect the ball in the NFL because it's all about the ball. Especially we know that Dan Quinn, I can't talk, y'all, preaches about the ball. It's all about the ball. It was also a nice play, even when he fumbled, where Zacchaeus did run down the defender who was going to take the ball into the end zone, and he stopped him at the 1 yard line, batted the ball out of his hands, which Zacchaeus caused the touchback. So that was definitely a great play. But as a whole, I like how the offense looked. They did move the ball pretty well. Other than a couple quarterback hurries and things of that nature, I understand that they're still gelling. I got to see Chris Carpenter, I believe is his name, for the first time at guard, and he looked pretty good. He used to be actually a player on the Jets for a long period of time. He's a veteran player, and last time I was trying to think of the guy's name that used to play with the Falcons that Carpenter reminds me of, and it's actually Chris Chester, I believe his name was. He played with us. We got him from the Redskins, and he kind of reminds me of Chester, just for the mere fact that he's a solid guard and he's a veteran player that's been around for 10 plus years. And if you remember when we had Chris Chester the year we went to the Super Bowl, which was 2016, he did come over from the Washington Redskins. He had been a long-time offensive lineman for the Redskins, and he did come over and help solidify a line, as well as Andy Levitre, which came over from Tennessee at, I believe, either the right or left guard spot. But they were our two guards the year that we went to the Super Bowl. And our O-line did play all 16 games together that year, which was big. If you can build that cohesiveness on the line, that will be big. And I feel like that's the main issue with our offensive line right now. It's not necessarily that the guys can't block or don't know how to block. It's just learning the combination blocks. And it's all about being cohesive with the guys that's you're playing with. You got to basically build that camaraderie and that cohesiveness to become a unit. Because if anybody have ever played football, especially like an offensive lineman or defensive lineman, but especially for offensive lines, that's one of the hardest positions to play is the offensive line, because you basically have to all move as one. You have to be together. And if one person's off, it'll throw everybody off. And it could cause a clean hit on your quarterback, especially if the team is blitzing, because you don't know who to pick up. It's a lot of different things that go, that involves playing the offensive line. But I like what I've seen out of the offensive line. They protected Matt Ryan a lot better. I also like what I saw out of Matt Ryan as always. I believe he was like 8 for 8 at one point during the game. So he was definitely great as always, Matt Ryan. The wide receivers, I didn't see a lot out of wide receivers. I did like that I seen Justin Hardy redeemed himself and did have a nice catch up the rail on the sideline. He did have a nice catch early in the game. I believe it was like the first or second quarter. They tried to throw a ball, I believe, to Christian Blake. And it wasn't Matt Ryan though. It was Danny Etling later on in the game, and the ball was short. He did have his guy beat on a 9 route. He was just running a streaks route, and he did have a step on the defender, but the ball hit the corner in the back. So it was a low thrown ball, a poorly thrown ball. So I would have loved to see if he could have made a play on the ball if it was a better thrown pass. But anyway, let's go over to the defensive side. I like what I saw out of our defensive line. Tat McKinley had a pick, and he almost took it back to the house, but he was stopped by one of the wide receivers. He was getting pressure all night on the quarterback, and not just him, but everybody on the team. I like what I saw out of Deidrin Sanat. Deidrin Sanat also looked very good last night. He did have a quarterback pressure and would have had a sack. And he's the one who actually caused Tat McKinley to get the interception with the quarterback pressure. I love what I seen out of Jack Crawford. He definitely did a great job. He was playing a lot of nose tackle position or in the middle, and he was causing pressure and causing havoc in the run game. Alan Bailey, I didn't see a lot out of him, but he was also getting pressure up the middle, and he was doing a decent job with stopping the run. Early in the game, they did get Darius Geist, the running back for the Redskins, did get a lot of yardage up the middle. He was getting like 4 and 5 yards a pop, but I believe that was because Tyler Davidson was not in the game. A lot of the times when he was getting those big yards up the middle, it was when we had Jack Crawford and Allen Bailey in the middle, and it was a couple times where Geist got loose and Chris Thompson got loose up the middle, and that's just because those are our smaller guys in the middle. In the season, I'm not too worried about that because I believe Tyler Davidson and Grady Jarrett will be mainly our run stuffers, and they'll be in a lot. They tried to play Hageman last night, but he got injured. I heard he injured his neck. So he's another guy that I believe will be big in stopping the run for us because he's one of the bigger defensive tackles. So I'm not too concerned about what I saw of them being able to run the ball and move the ball on us just because we didn't have everybody playing. As far as our linebackers, Jermaine Grace looked excellent last night. You know Deion Jones didn't play, but out of Bruce Carter and Jermaine Grace have been a standout this preseason. He did deflect the ball, which caused them to, when they were in the red zone, which caused them to actually have to kick a field goal. It was on a crucial third down where they were trying to throw it to the end zone, and Grace made a nice breakup, or he caused an incompletion by batting the ball down when the guy was coming across the middle. So I do like what I've seen out of Jermaine Grace. He has been flying all over the place this preseason. He has been making plays. I believe in the Dolphins game he had an interception, and he's looked awesome. So I believe that he will make this team. Jermaine Grace has proved himself this preseason. I like what I saw out of Duke Riley. I know a lot of Falcons fans dislike Duke Riley, and I know he really hasn't earned his stripes over the years for the past 2 seasons, but it looks like he's coming around as a linebacker. He did have a crucial stop on the goal line. He had about 2 or 3 tackles, and he ended the game, I believe, with about 6 or 7 tackles. So he had a great game, a great showing, and we know he has speed and athleticism. It's just about him learning how to trust his technique, and in the passing game, learning how to become a better coverage linebacker. He's always been a decent tackler, and he's always had the athletic ability. He just has to learn how to trust his technique and trust what he sees, trust his eyes. So I like what I saw out of our linebackers. And then on the back end, as far as our defensive backs, I like what I saw out of our defensive backs. They didn't even throw the ball towards Desmond Trufant at all, but he's been doing this thing all preseason. He's looked good with coming up, making crucial tackles and pass defense, having a couple breakups, but he didn't have any, like they didn't test him last night, so they really didn't even throw the ball his way. Isaiah Oliver looked a little bit better this game than he has in the past couple games where he had a couple of pass interference and holding penalties, but they really didn't throw at him a lot either, and he didn't play a whole lot in this game. Isaiah Oliver played a decent amount, but he didn't play a whole bunch. But I like what I'm seeing out of him. He's another one that just have to continue to work on his technique, continue to work on turning his head when the ball is being thrown his way so that they don't call pass interferences or don't call holding or don't call like him actually facing the defender. So basically him not turning his head or him face guarding is what I'm trying to say, actually. Him face guarding the receiver. He has to learn how to stop face guarding and just turn when the ball is coming, put your hand up, and look for the ball like you're actually trying to make a deflection or interception. But anyways, I want to go ahead and talk about I also want to talk about really quick before I go into the who's going to make this team. On as far as the defensive backs or the safeties, Keanu Neal did look great last night. He did have a big hit on a third down, I believe it was, against Jordan Reed. Jordan Reed did make the catch, but not Deion Jones, but Keanu Neal had a big hit across the middle. He did hit. It was a helmet-to-helmet contact type of hit. So I do believe that Neal will be fine for that hit. But what I did like about it is Neal is like our intimidator on this team. So if you're going to throw a slant or you're going to come across the middle as a tight end or wide receiver, you may want to think twice because he's going to lay the boom on you. He's going to lay the wood on you. and that's why I call Keanu Neal the hitman, because he reminds me of like a Cam Chancellor for our defense. He's like a hammer. He will hit you. He also reminds me of Adrian Amos that used to play for the Bears, where if you come across the middle, he is going to lay the wood on you, and he will take the penalty. He's not too worried about that. It's all about intimidation in football. He's basically trying to intimidate the defenders and to make them think twice, to make the quarterback think twice that should I put my receiver or my tight end or my running back in that compromising position where they may get hit or may get hurt. But with saying that, I do want to go ahead. That's pretty much my breakdown of the game last night. It was a great game. We did lose the game. I'm not too worried about us winning these preseason games. As long as I can go in and analyze, we can get these young players some plays. But I want to go ahead and break down who I think is going to make this 53-man roster. As far as the defensive line, I have down Tack McKinley, Vic Beasley, Alan Bailey, Adrian Claiborne, John Kaminsky, Grady Jarrett, Tyler Davison, Jack Crawford, Deidre Sanat, and Rasheed Hageman. Those are the guys that I have making for the defensive line. Those are the guys that I have making it on the defensive line for making this team. For our linebackers, I have Deion Jones making the team, of course. Jermaine Grace making this team. Devondre Campbell making this team. Ofoye Oluokun, and Duke Riley. And the reason I have Duke Riley, some people may be questioning him making this team, but I don't question it just for the mere fact that he did show us what he's capable of last night with him making crucial tackles and timely tackles. And he played fast, he played physical, and he's a great special teams player. So we need guys for special teams. You can't just look at him playing linebacker. Of course, he's not going to be one of the starting linebackers. He'll be a backup linebacker. And I already explained why Jermaine Grace will be making this team, because he showed himself. He's had an excellent preseason. For our defensive backs, I have Desmond Trufant, Isaiah Oliver, DeMonte Casey, Kendall Sheffield, Jordan Miller. In the safeties, Keanu Neal, Rico Allen, Kamal Ishmael, Sherrod Neesmith, and Brady Way Wilson. Those are the guys that I have making for the defensive backs. For the quarterbacks, I have, of course, Matt Ryan, and then the backup, Matt Schaub. I like what I saw out of Danny Etling last night, even though he only been on our team for about a week. I liked his athleticism, so I could see him possibly making the practice squad, but not making the 53-man roster. Because, we did keep Kurt Benkirk also, but he's on IR. So he usually would be the quarterback, I believe, for the practice team, Kurt Benkirk. But being that he got hurt for the year with that toe injury in the first game, the Hall of Fame game, I have Danny Etling making the practice squad because he can do a lot of things to get us prepared for running quarterbacks like Cam Newton that's in our division, and any of the running quarterbacks and mobile quarterbacks that will play this season. So I do have Danny Etling possibly making the practice squad. And so those are the quarterbacks. Matt Ryan and Matt Schaub, of course, will be the backup quarterback. For the wide receivers, I have Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu, Calvin Ridley, of course, Russell Gage, Justin Hardy, and Zacchaeus. Now, for the wide receivers, we already know Julio Jones, Sanu, and Ridley are a lock. But as far as Russell Gage, he has been another player for this to be his second season. He has made a huge leap as far as him catching the ball, running routes, and he's also an excellent special teams player. Justin Hardy, he was another guy who was our punt return and kick return, one of our kick returners last year. He has excellent hands. He proved it again last night with an excellent catch over the top from Matt Ryan. And he recovered from that touchdown drop he had, I believe, against the Jets it was. So, and then I have Zacchaeus. He's the young rookie, and I expect him to make the team just for the fact that he has shown that he could possibly be a special teams or returns person for this team. And also, he's been excellent far as the hustle plays that he's made. Like last night, that was a crucial play where it shows that he doesn't give up on plays. And sometimes those type of plays like that make or break if a person makes the roster. So him running down that player on that fumble by Quadra Olison and him running down to the 1 yard line and knocking the ball out of bounds, causing a touchback. Those are crucial plays. Those are game-changing plays. Those are winning plays. So you definitely want to have guys like that on your team that never give up on plays, that continue to fight, scratch, claw, and do everything that they possibly can to make winning plays. So I believe that the coaches will look at the tape and they will look at some of the catches he's had in the prior preseason games and also his return ability, him being a punt returner and kick returner. I believe he will make this roster. As far as our running backs, I have Devontae Freeman, Ito Smith, Brian Hill, Quadra Olison, and Kenyon Bonner. So I have I have us carrying 5 running backs. That might be a lot. So if someone else, like if you're watching someone else Falcons video and they don't have as many running backs as me, I was iffy on having 5 running backs. I was going back and forth on shit. I put Brian Hill on this roster as far as my 53-man roster, but I feel like Brian Hill deserves that to be on this 53-man roster because he's proven that when he's given an opportunity, he will capitalize on it. He has been on our team, cut from our team, I believe 2 different times, and he played for another team. He was picked up by another team. So I thought about just having him on the practice squad, but I believe if we put him on the practice squad, he will be picked up by another team. So I believe that Brian Hill is a great change of pace back. He's another bigger back, like could be possibly a short yardage back like Quadra Olison. He also can possibly be a special teams player. So I like having him, and he also could be a valuable option if Freeman, knock on wood, or Ito Smith or one of our other running backs do go down with injury again, like Freeman went down with injury last year or for the past 2 seasons. So it's always good to have depth at running back because that's the most physical position. You're being hit at all times, and it's a very crash, course, collision type of position. So you want to have as many running backs on your squad as possible, even though you always can get a running back off the street or pull a running back up from the practice squad if need be. With that being said, Kenyon Bonner, the reason I have him making the squad is because we had 2 bad punts yesterday, punt returns, 2 fumbled punt returns, one by Zacchaeus and one by Marcus Green. So no one really proved themselves in this preseason game last night to take over that role of returning punts and kickoff returns. So I can see Kenyon Bonner taking over that position because he's been doing that for years. He's a veteran. He knows how to catch the ball, most importantly, and he knows when to bring out, catch a punt, when to catch a kick return and bring it out. And he's always been a quality player when it comes to being a return man. Ever since he's been in college when he was playing at Oregon, he's always been an excellent return man. So I see him making a team just to be a special teams ace, basically. Meaning covering punts, covering kickoffs, and returning punts and kickoffs. So that's the only reason I have him down. And he is listed as a running back, I believe. So I don't see him getting any carries per se, unless we just knock on wood, cross our fingers, whatever, have a bunch of injuries. That's the only way I can see him actually carrying the ball in the backfield like a running back. But we have enough pure running backs. I believe he's just going to be like a special teams ace or a special teamer. At tight end, I have Hooper making this team, Austin Hooper. I have Luke Stalker making this team. I have Jalen Graham. He's been doing an excellent job. He played a little bit of fullback last night as well. So I definitely have him making a team. He's been excellent at running routes and catching the ball with strong hands. He has surprised me. And I have Logan Paulson making this team. Now, at first, I didn't have Logan Paulson. He was like one of the last guys I penciled in. I really could care less if he makes the squad or not, just for the mere fact that we have so many tight ends. I just believe that Paulson is a great blocking tight end, so it's good to have bigger tight ends that can block. And he possibly could also be a fullback as well as Luke Stalker, because Luke Stalker did play a little bit of fullback, I believe, with the Titans last year before we picked him up. So I don't have us carrying a fullback. I don't believe that Ricky Ortiz will make this team. I don't believe he deserves to make this team. He didn't play well last year. He hasn't played well in the preseason. And he doesn't create holes for the running back. To me, he's too little. He doesn't do anything for this team. He doesn't catch the ball out of the backfield well. He's not a great special teams player. So I don't have any pure fullback making this team. I believe we'll use our tight ends as fullbacks in the I formation or anytime we place them in the backfield. As far as our special teams, the punter, I have Matt Bosher, of course, making the team. The kicker, I have no choice, but Giorgio Tavecchio will be making this team. Now, let's go ahead. That's a whole nother issue, talking about Giorgio Tavecchio. I guess I'll go ahead and talk about it. With Giorgio Tavecchio, he has missed, I believe, 4 kicks in this preseason. How I feel about it, I've heard a lot of Falcons fans saying we need to go ahead and cut him or bring back Matt Bryant. And this is how I feel about it personally. I do trust Dan Quinn and him trusting in Giorgio Tavecchio because he did fill in for Matt Bryant last year when Matt Bryant got hurt, and he did an awesome job. I don't believe he missed any field goals. He was 100%. So we've seen him do it in the regular season before without missing. So I believe that's why Dan Quinn has so much faith in him right now, or trust in him. So I would agree with Dan Quinn with keeping Giorgio Tavecchio. But I would like us to bring in another kicker just to push Giorgio Tavecchio. I wouldn't necessarily cut Giorgio Tavecchio, but I would make him have a competition with another place kicker just to light a fire up under him, that let him know that your spot is not guaranteed. You have to compete just like any other position. You will have to compete for this position. We're not going to just give you the position because we're paying you to make kicks, and you have shown us that you are shaky and that you're struggling at this point. I don't know why he's struggling. I don't know if it's just something in his head at this point, but he does need to get it together. He does need to get it together, y'all. I feel like we should just bring in a kicker behind him, another young kicker, not Matt Bryant, because personally how I feel about Matt Bryant, I love Matt Bryant, but what the Falcons fans need to realize, and everybody needs to realize, is sometimes it's time to move on from a player. And Matt Bryant was a great player, but it was time to move on from him because his body was starting to break down. The reason I say that, if you look at the injury that he had last year, the injury he had was when he was kicking like a 58, or I think it was a 50-yard field goal, or a 48-yard field goal, and he put all his thrust into the kick, his hips and everything. He thrusted, and when he did that thrust, that's how he got hurt. That's how he pulled his groin. And the reason he pulled his groin, I believe, is because he's an older player. So it's not that Matt Bryant is not a good kicker. He's a great kicker. He was clutch. That's why we called him money, because we pretty much could guarantee that he would make pretty much every kick that he was going to kick. It was rare that Matt Bryant missed any kicks, but you can't play forever. All good things must come to an end, as they say, as an old cliche. He can't be on the team forever. It's time to move on and time to get younger, because we can't continue. And we're paying Matt Bryant. I believe when we had him, he was one of the highest paid kickers. So we really don't want to be taking up that much cap space for a special teams player, for a player that's just a kicker. No disrespect. I love Matt Bryant, but I feel like it was time to move on. So if we're going to let go of Giorgio Tavecchio, I feel like we need to go young. We still need to go after another kicker. Even if we were to get rid of Giorgio Tavecchio, I don't believe the answer is going back to Matt Bryant, because Matt Bryant is going to want a certain amount of money, because he knows that he's one of the best kickers of all time. So being that he knows that he's one of the best kickers, we're going to have to pay him like one of the best kickers. And I feel like we could use that money for something else on this team, not for a kicker. It's a lot of kickers out there that's making minimum dollars that are solid kickers. So I feel like at this point, give Giorgio Tavecchio, I would bring in another young kicker for this last game, this last preseason game, and let them have a competition. I would let them have a competition in practice to be kicking the ball against each other, and then I would determine at the end of when it's ended the last preseason game, I would decide at that point who won that kicking competition. Was it Giorgio Tavecchio or was it whoever this young kicker that we bring in? And then, of course, I have the long snapper making the team. I believe his name is Josh Harris. He's making the team. And then for offensive linemen, last but not least, I had Tyson Brilo making this team. Jake Matthews making this team. Caleb McGarry making this team. Matt Gano making this team. Alex Mack making the team. Jamon Brown making the team. Wes Schweitzer making the team. And Carpenter making this team. And I think I called him Chris Carpenter earlier. His name is James Carpenter. I apologize. Yeah, the guard that played last night that we signed from the Jets. But yeah, those are the guys that I have making the squad. So if you're asking me who I believe will start game 1 against the Vikings, week 1, I believe we will have Alex Mack at the center position, Jamon Brown at the guard position. I forgot to put the young guy up there, Chris Lindstrom. I'm sorry, Chris Lindstrom as well. He's going to make the team. And he will be the other guard. So the starters will be Alex Mack, Chris Lindstrom, Jamon Brown, and then at the 2 tackle positions will be Jake Matthews, of course, and then Tyson Brilo at the right tackle position. So left tackle, Jake Matthews. Guard, again, will be at left guard, Chris Lindstrom. At right guard, Jamon Brown. At center, Alex Mack. And then at right tackle, Tyson Brilo. I believe that will be the starting lineup as far as our offensive linemen. And then eventually, I believe Tyson Brilo will be replaced by Caleb McGarry unless he's just balling out and playing good. And then nobody's safe on this line. As y'all seen, I feel like you always should keep as many offensive linemen as possible. So I have Wes Schweitzer making a team as a backup. I had James Carpenter as a backup, Matt Gano as a backup, and basically I kept Schweitzer. Some people may say that that's a questionable. It's questionable if he makes the roster, but he's the only person I've seen play the center position behind Alex Mack. So that's the only reason that I have Wes Schweitzer making this team is because he's very versatile. He's played guard on this team last year. He's played center for Alex Mack in an emergency situation. So Wes Schweitzer is the only backup I've seen actually play the center position and the both guard positions. So Wes Schweitzer is like a Swiss Army knife. So that's the main reason he's making a team. Carpenter will be a backup for Jamon Brown. And that's if Jamon Brown plays terrible or, knock on wood, if Jamon Brown gets hurt. But other than that, that's my 53-man roster. Y'all like, subscribe to the channel, Jew Talk Sports. Tell your friends and your family about me, about this stream, about the page. Tell me if you like the video. Leave your comments below if it's somebody that you had being taken off of this roster, or if it's somebody you wanted to add to the roster that you feel like I didn't add to the roster. But that's Jews or Julian's, from my perspective, of who will make this roster. I hope you enjoyed the video today. It is Falcons Friday. Remember always to rise up. And also, just remember that I will always be on here on Fridays doing these videos. So like I said before, tell your friends about the videos. Like, share, subscribe. I will be doing more Facebook Lives until I get my page up to 1,000 subscribers, I believe is what I need to be able to use YouTube, to go live on YouTube. So I will be doing my next probably Facebook Live, which will be next Thursday when we take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. So if you want to come be a part, you can go to my Facebook page, Julian Red, and last name spelled R-E-D-D, like the color. And I will be on there. I will be taking questions. I will be in there enjoying the game with you guys. I will be doing a telecast. I don't actually live stream the game on Facebook Live because Facebook won't allow me to. The NFL doesn't allow that for me to show the game. But if you want to find the game, if you're not living in Atlanta, because I actually live in Orlando, Florida, so I'll be watching the game on TV. But usually I stream the games online. And usually you can find a place online where you can stream the game for free. So definitely look for the game. If not, I would love to have you on my Facebook Live, and I'll basically be doing the play-by-play and also answering any questions you may have. I don't expect in this last preseason game for any of our starters to play. I don't see Matt Ryan playing. I don't see any of the starters to play. Devontae Freeman, I don't think any of them will play. I think it mainly will be the backups. So I'm looking forward to seeing y'all on Thursday. Like I said before, God bless. And I'm out. Peace.